My guest today is the co-founder of Acoustic Alchemy, Greg Carmichael. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, you were actually born, I think, in London.
Yeah.
Where?
Where in London?
Hmm.
Well, generically it's called Holloway, although specifically it's Tufnell Park, which is. I mean, when a lot of people ask me that, a lot of people don't know where Tufnell Park is, so I generally say Camden Town because it's a bit more. It's a bit more well kind of known.
Because people might know Camden Town.
Yeah. So it's very close to that.
So tell me what your upbringing was like. What did your mother and father do?
My upbringing was I was we were sort of raised, if you like, in we lived in a one-bedroom flat.
Say we.
Well, we meaning myself, my sister, and my mum and dad, and it was funny actually because at school, because I went to just a standard state school, and a lot of the kids who went there were from the estate, because there were quite a few estates around, and those were what we call council estates. But the block of flats I lived in was sort of privately owned, so it was quite at school. There was that slight distinction that I wasn't actually from the council.
You were the posh
kids. Yeah, well, it wasn't posh, but I mean, I had that kind of separation. So I was. My dad worked in the print, and my mother worked for the local estate agents. And I mean, it was quite tough. That's why I suppose I left home quite early, because there just literally wasn't any room. It was really quite difficult, I think, when I think back to what it must have been like for my parents, because they didn't have a bedroom. Every night they'd have to sort of set up beds in the living room, and
Wow.
and I had to share with my sister, and we had a sort of partition and everything. So it was really, I mean, very happy sort of family life, but very claustrophobic really. So as I got older, I just felt that I couldn't stay. So I kind of moved out when I was 17.
So before we get to being 17, I guess I'd like to ask you what your sort of early musical influences were. How did you? I mean, you've obviously become a musician. What was the first memory of music in your life as a kid?
Well, my parents were. My dad was always fancied himself as a musician. He was in the armed forces, and he was based overseas. He was actually the home guard, if you like, in South Africa, in Cape Town. So he had. It sounded like he had a pretty cushy war, really, because he wasn't he had sort of health issues, so he couldn't actually be in the regular army, but he was shipped out to South Africa to, as I say, sort of form part of their home guard. So he's fantastic time he had. I mean, it was beautiful weather. I mean, he said he nearly, at the end of the war, when he had to come back on the boat and it drew into the London docks, he just thought, oh, what am I doing? I mean, he wished he'd have stayed in South Africa. He'd always fancied himself as a singer, and he was involved in various singing competitions and in Cape Town. No. No way. He was a huge Frank Sinatra fan.
Oh, right.
I mean, he fancied himself as a crooner.
Yeah.
And he's got various cuttings that he showed me of, competitions, and he had a good voice, actually. He had a good voice. So I think he was great support for me. I think he was a little bit of a frustrated musician, and I guess that he wanted, he supported me and wanted me to kind of become a musician secretly, because I think he probably would like to have done that.
And did he want you to be a singer, or did he want you to be an instrumentalist?
I don't think he minded. He always, actually thinking about it, I think he did. He thought I should sing.
Did you have any formal training? I mean, did you learn to play piano? Or?
No. No. I mean, they bought me a ukulele when I was 8 years old, and I kind of took to that. But there was always music in the house. My mum, although she wasn't a musician, she used to dance during the war. Her thing was she used to go dancing all the time. In fact, that's how she met my dad. You know, they used to Saturday night they go to a big ballroom and not a ballroom,
palais or
sort of palais, yeah. Where there was a band, a proper big band, and they'd dance, and that's how they met. So, consequently, you'd be sitting in the living room, and suddenly something would come on the radio, and they both get up and dance because they could. They knew, they know all the moves and everything.
Right.
So, it was a pretty musical household, and they, the radio and records were always on, and to his credit, my dad, when the Beatles came out, he thought they were great. I thought they were great, and he thought they were great.
It's interesting because that's your first musical choice, a Beatles track. Any particular reason why?
Any particular reason why? Well, I mean, it's impossible to choose for me one Beatles track because for me there are just so many great tracks. I mean, and I think what I liked about the Beatles was the fact that they seemed to strive, for each album was a bit different, and they kept pushing the envelope, keep trying something else, and they were very, very lyrical, and great songs, great writers, I mean, it's virtually impossible to choose one track. Although I have chosen one track.
What's it called?
It's In My Life, and I think it's a wonderful track, and it's got George Martin, the producer, who does a little solo in it. He's on the.
I didn't know that.
On the harpsichord, and one of the things about it is that I think, looking back now, being older, I just can't, find it quite difficult to fathom how young guys of, the age of 20, 21, 22, 23 were so kind of profound. I mean, because when I think back to
perhaps George Martin was profound. Oh.
Possibly. When I think, when I think back to myself at that age, but they had such talent. And there's just this line in My Life, where is it? Where there's one line which goes, with lovers and friends, I can still recall, some are dead and some are living, and I don't know. I think that's quite a profound line for writers, to be of that age and to come up with something like that.
We should listen to it. Here's the Beatles from Rubber Soul and In My Life. There we are. Greg's first choice: the Beatles, Rubber Soul, and a track called In My Life. So we're up to the kind of stage where you've started with a ukulele, you've been at school. Obviously, you decided, well, not obviously, but you then went on to a more specialist education, particularly in terms of music. How did that arrive?
Well, I wanted to. I realised that, I suppose, when I was, mid-teens, that I wanted to be a musician. But it's
why?
It's what I thought I could do.
Was it fame, the money? What was the incentive? Girls?
Probably none of those, actually.
Oh, right.
It seemed like a way I could express myself. I was very interested in. I've always kind of been, dabbled in writing songs, and I like that. I like that sort of thing. And
so, where did you go to learn how to perfect your art?
Well, I after I graduated from the ukulele at the age of 12, and the only reason why the ukulele was a kind of tester. My parents, obviously they didn't they weren't particularly wealthy at all, and they didn't want to splash out on a guitar, so they tried me out the ukulele first, see how serious I was about it, and then when they realised that I really wanted to do it at the age of 12, they bought me a guitar.
Can you remember what sort it was? What was the make?
No, but I remember going to get it. I remember my dad took me along to this. It's probably quite a dodgy guy, actually, I think, thinking about it, because it was in this house and he had a room full of guitars, and it wasn't a shop or anything.
There wasn't a lorry backed up at the back with...
No. And anyway, he had various guitars, and I picked one, and that was it.
And was it a nylon string, or was it
no,
steel?
no, it was steel
steel
string.
string.
Yeah,
okay.
steel string. Yeah.
So you practiced on this, and then how did you get into? Where did you go to for your education, musical education?
I had lessons.
Okay.
My dad wanted me to have proper lessons, so we went first of all to this place along called the Caledonian Road, and the guy who owned the music shop was a drummer who played at the Sunday night at the London Palladium. He was one of their drummers, and he had this shop, and he let out various rooms within the shop, and there was a guitar teacher in there. The guitar teacher, I remember his name, John Bennett. He was also a guitarist who played in the pit in the shows. He was playing at the Victoria Palace. But, great reader. These guys, they're jobbing musicians, but he could read anything, and very good guitarist. So I went along for lessons there, sort of every Saturday.
And then from there, having learned to play the guitar and fairly good, you obviously thought, I need to have formal education in guitar, yeah? Or
that was a sort
college.
of formal education. It
Yes.
was a steel string. It was, I remember working through these books called the Mel Bay books, and you started at book number 1 and hopefully got to book number 9 or whatever it was. And it was reading, reading and because it was steel string with the plectrum and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it got to the stage where, in order for me to continue with an education, if you like, or to try to become a musician, I wanted to continue after school, and so it meant going to a music college. But music colleges then weren't about steel string guitar or jazz or anything like that. It was about the classical guitar. You either did classical guitar or you didn't. I mean, you wouldn't get in. So I had to. I remember in the sixth form I had to ditch. The steel string and relearn and learn, because it's a completely different instrument. Learn the classical guitar, and I spent a year solid, practicing 6 hours a day. I had to give up some of my A levels. In fact, I only finished up taking one A level because I ditched the other two in order that I could have this time to practice. But it meant that.
And did you have to audition to get in?
Oh yeah. In fact, the guy who auditioned me was Lloyd Webber, his dad. Andrew Lloyd Webber's dad.
Wow.
Yeah, who was running the London College of Music, and so I went along to the audition and got in.
And how long were you there?
It was 4 years.
Oh, it's a long course.
Yeah, it was a long course. Yeah.
And you won a prize when you were there.
I won a prize when I was there.
Yeah.
Are you thinking about what sort of prize are we talking about?
I think didn't you win at some songwriting competition? Or?
Oh, that was a lot earlier.
Oh, was it?
Oh yeah,
right.
no, that was when that was the Islington Songwriters Competition. That was when I was about 13. 14.
Oh, I didn't realise. It was at college.
Yeah,
very good.
No, yeah.
So, having graduated from the London School of Music,
London School of Music, yeah. London College of Music,
what happened after that? How did you think to yourself, okay, now I'm a professional musician, I'll go and join an orchestra, or I'll go and be what? Or did you think I want to join a rock and roll band, or what were your first kind of thoughts of that?
Well, it's like a lot of things in life, things come along. I mean, I didn't really think hard about how I was going to do it, but whilst I was at college, I was playing in bands and things, and I kind of realised though that I didn't want to be a classical guitarist. It's not in my nature to be a solo performer, to get up on stage on my own and sit down playing pieces of Bach and
Did you have a view as to what you would do? In other words, would it be rock and roll? Would it be jazz? Would it be pop? Would it be? I mean, or did you not care?
No, I didn't think it would ever be rock and roll because, but it would be some kind of Latin jazz in that kind of area, classical, but playing in a band. I certainly did not want to be a solo performer, which is what the classical guitar is all about.
We'll try a second track, something which perhaps people wouldn't expect. This is a choice of a band called Led Zeppelin. Why Led Zeppelin?
Well, because when at school, I went to just a state school, comprehensive, but we had to wear. I was in what was called the grammar stream, and so we were still wearing uniform, and it was quite strict. It was still quite strict. It was sort of hangover from the grammar school days, when the school was a grammar school before it turned into a comprehensive. And when you reached the sixth form, suddenly you had your own common room. You could wear what clothes you liked, and we're talking about 1969, 1970. So at that period, suddenly I could wear flares, I could wear what shirts I liked, I could grow my hair, and we had a record player in the common room, and guys would bring in various albums tucked under their arms and playing them. And I remember one guy brought in, he said, to everyone, check this out, and put it on, and it was Led Zeppelin 2, and A Whole Lot of Love, and what a fantastic album, just blew me away. And I've still got that same copy in, because you can't play it now, it's just so worn out. And that was kind of a landmark for me, that whole thing of suddenly hitting that age and being allowed to dress how you like, and this music, and what was happening in London, Carnaby Street, the hippie thing, everything, that time, it was a fantastic time.
And also this track became the kind of the track of the generation, because there was a very famous TV program called Top of the Pops, which was on every week and had the best of the music that was out that particular week, and of course this was used as the theme music to it, so people knew it very well. Let's hear it anyway. This is Led Zeppelin and Whole Lot of Love.
Okay, I've just got to check. I'm just getting, my phone's just been going crazy.
Stop it.
It's all right.